And good day, good Wednesday to you. I hope maybe you got up to see the lunar events, the red moon today, an event in history. I am Tamara Scott on this day in history, and you're listening to Truth for Our Time, which will also then be joining Restoring Hope as we move to our audience on American Family Radio Networks. Today we have a very interesting a combination of guests today. Sarah Bowman will be joining me. Sarah is with iCage, www.iacage.org. It's the Iowa Conservatives Against Gambling Expansion. It's one of the newer groups that will be dealing with gambling in Iowa. We'll be talking to her about why that group started and what they know that we don't know as far as having to have a new group to combat gambling in Iowa. We just had one more casino okayed, and many feel that we're at the saturation point. So we'll see what happens. We'll talk to Sarah and learn more about that. Annette Meeks will also be joining us. She is with the Freedom Foundation, the CEO of the Freedom Foundation in Minnesota. She's also a board member of the Citizens Against Gambling. So we'll be talking with both of them our first half hour, and then our second half hour, Van Harden is joining me. Van Harden is a well-known name in this area, probably across the United States. He's on the 50,000-watt Clear Channel station of WHOradio.com. But we'll be talking to him about something totally different, a book he wrote called The Purple Wedge. And it's not what I thought it was when I first saw it. I thought, oh, one more thing about politics. You know, we hear the red state, the blue state, no, we're a purple state. So I thought it was maybe about politics, but it's not. It's finding yourself on the map and how that changes everything once you do. So we'll be meeting with Van Harden in our second half hour of the show today. So stay tuned. And right now we're going to go to a break. Ryan, if that's okay, we'll go to a break. When we come back, we'll start our segment there for the listeners that want to join us on those other radio networks. So I am Tamara Scott. Thanks for staying tuned on this day in history, Truth for Our Time, as we give you help in today's world when the headlines hit home. My thanks to Webcast One Live for powering us. My thanks to Christians for America for supporting us and giving us the power to be on the air, and those others who want to come alongside. You can find us on Truth for Our Time on the Facebook page. Any of our archives that you want to hear, you can go to Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. We don't make it hard for you. The links are there so you can get information. So thanks very much. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And good day, I am Tamara Scott. Thanks for joining us. We thank Mac for sharing his air with us as we give you truth that can help you when the headlines hit home. We give you God's Word and how to live God's Word in today's world. Today, joining me for this segment of the show, and if you ever want to get portions of the show, you can go to the link. You can find them on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube, Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. You can always contact us through our Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, or Tamara Scott, either way on Facebook. So right now we're going to jump. Actually, Brian, let's quick go to those pictures if we can. The pictures of the event in D.C. This last Sunday, Governor Huckabee, Concerned Women for America, joined forces right at the, I think it's the northern side of the Capitol. So this is in front of World War II Monument. This is a group of folks from Concerned Women for America of Iowa, CWA of Iowa, chartered a jet. By the grace of God and the help of a good friend, we chartered a jet, a small plane. It wasn't a jet, a small plane, and headed to D.C. for our participation in this rally to stand with Israel. Can you flip through the next picture? For those of you who are listening on air, you'll have to go to the Facebook page to see these, or you'll have to go to, and that's Lee Greenwood. It's a really dark picture of Lee Greenwood. And then this is Connie there, and then Connie, one of our members that went with us, holding the Israel flag. And Denise Bubeck, one of our state outreach coordinators, she's holding a sign that says we support Israel. And that's part of our group from Iowa. We're so thrilled to have 8 people from Iowa on our plane to D.C. There's Penny Nance, the CEO and president of Concerned Women for America, which stands with Israel, changed their tenets to add Israel to one of their core beliefs and why we exist. And so if you have questions on that, you want to get more information, you can go to Concerned Women for America. The national page is cwfa.org. You can always find us on CWA of Iowa on the Facebook page, or our state page is also located on that website as well. But I want you to understand the need we have in standing with Israel as Americans, as Iowans, as God's warning in Hebrew 12:3 that we have to bless those who He blesses those who bless Israel. So I just had to take that little break out. On the phone line is Sarah Bowman, who is with one of the newer groups to fight gambling expansion. It's iCage, IACAGE.org. iCage, Iowans, Iowa Conservatives Against Gambling Expansion. And also joining me is Annette Meeks, who is with the Freedom Foundation out of Minnesota and on the board for Citizens Against Gambling. So, Sarah, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Tamara. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for bringing this new group to my attention. I didn't know you existed, and how long have you been around?
We actually just started in June.
So I hadn't
really
missed
new.
too much. I hadn't missed too much. Very
No.
good. And so then joining us as well is Annette Meeks. Good morning, Annette.
Good morning, Tamara. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. And you've been doing this same work up in Minnesota.
For over a decade, we have been active up here. It started actually with a group of concerned Christians who really saw the expansion of gambling in Minnesota and just the proliferation of so many different types and the harm it does to individuals. I believe that, first of all, government should never be in something that's predatory like gambling. But more importantly, when it hurts individuals and families, as we know gambling does, that we had a moral obligation to get involved. And so we have expanded our coalition through the years and have been very successful. But let me tell you, every time we have a success, they come right back at us.
Boy, that's the truth.
It never stops. They're always looking for a new way to tell people they can get rich quick and in the process destroy more families.
Now, what do you say? What's your response when people say, but it's a dumb tax, it's a voluntary tax? Those people who want to give their money, it's just a great way for us to get revenue, and it's totally voluntary.
You know, first of all, I don't know of any, it is a tax, and it's a regressive tax of the worst site. You don't see Donald Trump pulling the slot machine lever at his own casinos. There is a reason why they offer incentives and free bus rides to casinos, and they do it because they incentivize people who are looking to get rich quick. That's always the motto, whether it's a lottery or a casino, whatever it is. And their goal is to incentivize people that it could be you. And the problem is 99% of the time it's not you, and you just see horrific tales. I'll tell you, if I may, what really motivated me to get involved was I grew up in southern Illinois, right outside of St. Louis, and when they started riverboat casinos, which you also have in Iowa, there was the most horrific story of a young school teacher mom who discovered that she could leave school after her class was done, run down to the casinos, gamble, come back home, cook dinner for her family, and no one knew. And she got deeper and deeper and deeper until she obliterated her family's savings and wasn't making her mortgage payments each month on their home. And on the day that she received the foreclosure notice for their home, her family had no idea any of this was happening. She committed suicide. And my mom's prayer group at her church found out about this. It was just one of those things that kind of spreads from word of mouth. Number one, everyone would have given them money to save their home and protect this family. But more importantly, it shows how insidious gambling is. It can happen to anyone, and casinos and lotteries all exist because people get addicted, and they know that a certain percentage will. And I don't think government should ever have any role in that type of predatory behavior.
And I have to tell you, Minnesota always kind of fascinates me because you're known for being kind of a free spirit up there, and you were, I think, were the first state to elect an independent as a governor. So you all kind of have this liberty about you, this free spirit. We never know where you're going to come from. And then I see good things coming out of Minnesota, like Michelle Bachmann and like you, combating gambling. So I'm kind of surprised that you can be that organized. Is gambling a real issue in Minnesota? How many casinos do you have up there?
Oh, my gosh. We have 18 tribal casinos. We have a statewide lottery. We have 2 horse racing tracks. And those horse racing tracks also have 24-hour card clubs where people can play poker and other games, card games. And now what we have really fought hard against is putting slot machines at those racetracks. Both of them are not doing all that well. So about every 2 years, they come to the legislature and ask for permission to put slot machines there. Most recently, we started electronic pull tabs, which is what our charitable gambling consists of in Minnesota. So bars and some restaurants have pull tabs. This year, 2 years ago, they decided to fund our new Viking Stadium, which is a whole other story. But they decided to fund that through electronic pull tabs, and that was a dismal failure. And so we're hopeful that people are slowly starting to catch on. But our big threat, and this is the same threat in Iowa that we're now fighting, is internet gambling. And this is the latest push by especially poker players and other groups that up until 2011, they could gamble online in their living rooms, in their dorm rooms, wherever it was, and they could hook up with these internet gambling sites, many of which were located off the shores of the United States. And in Minnesota, you talk about our crazy crazy liberty streak, if you will, we allow 18-year-olds to gamble. And even Las Vegas doesn't do that. They insist you be 21. And we have grave concerns about not only who runs these internet gambling sites, but verifying that 18-year-old kids can turn their iPhone into an instant slot machine. And who would ever know how much money they're losing and what they're doing in their spare time? It's a real concern, and it's happening. 10 states have legislation pending right now to legalize internet gambling, and 3 states have already done so.
Of the 3 states that have done so, and Sarah, I want to get to you, but of the 3 states that have already legalized online gambling, do we have repercussions? Do we have any studies that show the problems with it?
Well, what's going to be interesting is the 3 states are Delaware, New Jersey, and Nevada. And, of course, New Jersey's gambling industry in Atlantic City is already going through a tumultuous time. 4 casinos have closed there within the past year. And I believe, and we'll have to see now as internet gambling becomes more pervasive, why would anybody drive to a casino when you could gamble away in your own living room, family room, or dorm room? And I think this is going to be increasingly a problem for casinos. We do know that the problem with proximity is what the researchers always call it, that the closer you are to a physical casino, the more problem gambling that occurs. And they measure this by the crime statistics and the bankruptcies and the suicides that accompany new casinos when they open. And on the East Coast, there has just been a proliferation of new casinos in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York. So New Jersey is saying right now that that's the problem, that there have been all these new casinos opening up all over the East Coast. I believe that it's going to be a combination of new casinos and internet gambling.
Interesting. Okay, Miss Sarah Bowman, did Iowa legalize online gambling?
Not yet.
We've had a vote on it, though.
Yes, but it failed. But I'm afraid that it's going to happen, and I hope it doesn't happen, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here in Iowa.
Now, Annette Meeks is joining us on the other line from Minnesota, and Sarah Bowman, Bowman, is joining us from Iowa. And so no matter what state you are in the nation, if you want to get help on this, if you want to get involved in this, can either one of you ladies tell them how they could join an organization, or perhaps they need to start a wing of your group in their state?
Annette, would you want
to? I'll go first. The easiest way to get involved is there's a number of organizations, whether it's our Minnesota Family Council. They have been a really terrific co-partner with us. I am with the Freedom Foundation of Minnesota, and that's just spell it out, freedomfoundationofminnesota.com. And we have been a very active participant. Or you can go to our CAGE website, and that email is just info@mncage.com. And we welcome everyone. And let me tell you, it's an unusual coalition. Normally we're used to, frankly, evangelical Christians like myself that have been involved in this. And we have really reached out, and it's been so rewarding, especially when we talk about how this destroys families, to see other interfaith groups get involved and frankly, take a public stand to help us stop this. So you don't have to be an evangelical Christian to get involved.
No, and we just battled another casino in Iowa, and Ed, I don't know if it was you or Sarah, which one of you, that they'll keep coming back. And this happened right here in Warren County, Madison County, Dallas County, 8 years ago. So this is 2014, 8 years ago, we had a casino on the ballot, and they wouldn't tell us what county it was going to be in. That way it was really hard to get a group up to really fight it hard because you weren't sure where it was going to be. And we did win. We beat it. But, it was going to come right back. But thankfully, Scott Reich, our representative at the time, had passed a bill that they could not bring the casino referendum back for 8 years. What a thrill that was. What a break that was for us as little volunteers with no budget. So here, 8 years later, right back on the ballot, another casino. We were able to defeat it again. And you're right, Annette, it wasn't just evangelicals. Sometimes it's liberals. Sometimes it's some of my leftist friends because they see the danger that it goes after the weak, the poor, those who least can afford to lose money are the ones who often get tempted into the casino and lose everything. So
I'll tell you, Tamara, you are so right on the money. No pun intended. Let me tell you one of the most pernicious things that have been discovered since we've been working on this issue. I believe it was Massachusetts years ago. Their lottery got into trouble. Their state-run lottery, because they were mailing free coupons for lottery tickets to the poorest zip codes in cities. And you look at that and realize this is not just big corporations, big gambling corporations that do this type of really, really prejudicial and pernicious marketing, but it's your own state government that's looking to make money off of poor people desperate to better their circumstances. And when you see a state lottery doing things like that, it suddenly wakes you up to, wow, that really is the whole basis of this premise of gambling, is getting poor people to spend their money that they don't have. And that's really has motivated, like you said, a lot of people to join our coalition. It's not just big gambling corporations. It's not just Native American tribes. It's a lot of different groups.
And then those people end up on the rolls of the welfare, and so they are then beholden to the city. And you hate to think, is that why governments are doing that, so that they can have folks in their grasp? You know, the Bible tells you the lender is the master, the borrower is the slave, and we just almost wonder sometimes if government wants people within their grasp. We can tell by this administration it certainly seems to be the case. All right, so Miss Sarah, Iowa has 18 casinos, 3 tribal casinos. Iowa has 2,400 lottery outlets. That would be what, all the convenience stores and grocery stores that sell the tickets?
Correct. Yep.
And then Iowa has 36,000 slot machines across the state.
And we're actually up to, it'll be 19 casinos once they build that one in Jefferson, which is why I became involved. I've been a lifelong Iowan, grew up in Carroll County. My family has a Century Farm up in Calhoun County, and that's 20 miles from my hometown. And I had a friend when I was growing up, they lost their farm because the dad was going to the casinos and losing money in the winter months when he wasn't farming. And they ended up losing their farm. They lost everything. And the fact that there's a casino going up in Jefferson, 20 miles from my hometown, whereas you had to drive 2 hours to get to a casino, I'm afraid that more of my friends and neighbors are going to be losing their farms as well, because, as Annette was saying, the proximity to a casino, there's more of an addiction.
And, of course, when we fought our casino, we had people battling us on those studies and those statistics, saying they simply weren't true. But Tom Coates from Consumer Credit has been battling this issue for years, if not decades. And he can tell you, one, for every dollar, I think it is, correct me if you know differently, last I heard, for every dollar a casino takes in, it's $3 that it costs the taxpayers because of services that will have to go out.
That's correct.
Spot on. And You know what? That's not coming from Sarah or me. That's coming from research that's been done by several economic professors that have focused on this issue for quite some time, to say gambling does not produce jobs. For example, that's one of the first things they always say. Gambling does not produce wealth. And when you confront them with this, the first thing they always point to is someone who won $1 million lottery ticket or what else. Yep, that person got money, but they didn't create anything. When you build a car, you've created something, and when you sell that car, you've created wealth. In the case of gambling, it's merely a transfer from the losers, of which they know the majority of people are going to be, who transfer that wealth that they've put into a slot machine or a lottery ticket to another person. And this is one of the toughest things we fight is they'll say, well, we're building a new casino and it's going to create 3,000 jobs. Right. And then you have to go back and say, but at what cost and what are you creating? And it's a tough debate to have, because the lure of jobs in a community, especially in these difficult economic times, courtesy of President Obama, it's been very enticing to communities to put up a casino and and attract people to come and say it's tourism, and it's not.
And it's absolutely not. It actually will be a plague on the very people who will end up having to pay for it in your community. I was so surprised that Jefferson wanted this casino. Here's part of the problem, and this is a little bit off the topic, but allow me, if you will. Our schools too often are the largest employer in our community. And what people need to understand is a school is not an employer. It's your government. It is your tax dollars. It's nobody, as you say, Annette, creating wealth. It's them redistributing your tax dollars right back in your community. But your school, it was never designed that your school be your largest employer. You should have businesses. You should have entrepreneurs. You should have all kinds of opportunities besides the government for employment in your communities. So you have your school. It's actually a drain on your society because it's taking money out of your tax rolls. Then you add onto that a casino thinking that that's going to bring money in. And again, that money comes from your area. Let's face it, in Iowa, we have no mountains to sell. We have no beaches to rent for a weekend of fun. We have wonderful, wonderful people, and we feed the world. But as far as a destination, we're not going to be a gambling destination. And even if Atlantic City was, we see now what's happening with casinos closing there. So often the occupants, the clients become those people in the community, and they now take that on their shoulders. And we also know, and you ladies maybe can add to this, and again, another fact that people like to dispute, but your smaller businesses will go out because they can't compete. They don't have the subsidy of casino cash, so they can't offer prime rib for $5.95 like the casino can. So your local businesses, your restaurants will dry up and go away.
You are so spot on. And you know what else we have discovered when Minnesota was the very first Native American compact, when casino-style gambling became legal, authorized by Congress several decades ago. Do you know the one business you are so spot on about the local restaurants, the local tourism, of which we have quite a bit of in northern Minnesota, but we're not seeing those communities becoming enriched in greater Minnesota because they're difficult to get to. They're far away, and frankly, they're not a tourist destination, like you said, of Atlantic City or Las Vegas. But instead, the proliferation of businesses that did crop up in those communities, pawn shops. And that speaks volumes about what kind of wealth is really created. Nothing.
Well, and you were talking about the mom who was going to the casino on her way after dropping the kids off, and I have heard that the pawn shops over by the casinos are filling up with vacuums and toasters, and moms dropping things off thinking they'll make their lot and buy it on their way back home, and that simply doesn't happen. One of the other issues go ahead.
I wanted to add, it's not just me worrying about people losing their farms. That's a big issue for me, but like Annette said, it's not just evangelicals. I'm Roman Catholic, and we have 4 boys under the age of 8, and my oldest has a Kindle. What's if internet gambling is allowed, other than not allowing Wi-Fi on his Kindle, what's going to stop him from turning his Kindle into a slot machine? How are they going to control that he's not saying that he's at 21? My 8-year-old could be playing slot machines and using money if he can get a hold of a credit card or something, and then you have problem gamblers when they're in elementary school.
And if your 8-year-olds like my kids and most kids, they'll figure it out long before we as adults. So
that's true.
One of the other things we haven't talked about, and of course we want to let people know, I'm talking with Annette Meeks, Meeks, from Freedom Foundation out of Minnesota. She's the CEO. She's also on the board of Citizens Against Gambling. I'm talking with Sarah Bowman, Sarah Sarah, and Bowman is BOWM. Is it E-N, Sarah, or A-N?
A-N.
E-N?
A-N.
A-N. A-N.
Yep.
BOWMAN. Sarah, how can people find you in Iowa if they want to join forces with you?
We are online. We are at www.iacage.org, and we also have a Facebook page and a Twitter account. You can follow us on Twitter at IACage.
IA Cage. She's saying cage like a bird cage. It is Iowa Conservatives Against Gambling Expansion. And one of the things we haven't talked about, we have actually we're just on the way out, but we haven't even talked about the sex trafficking that I know from my work in that area is always increased near a casino, and young women and even young boys unfortunately become the victims and the predatory prey of those in this arena. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. On your way out, what would you like to tell people, their thoughts?
Well, very quickly, Tamara, thank you for all you do. And Sarah, thank you for all you're doing, because Iowa is such an important state. You have the opportunity to talk to presidential wannabes as they come through there and talk about not expanding gambling nationwide. And that's so, so important as we head into 2016. So thank you for all you're doing in Iowa.
Thank you. And Tamara, thank you for having us on. And if anybody wants to look us up, we're at www.iacage.org.
Very good. I am Tamara Scott. We've given you truth that you can use, a little help when the headlines hit home, and ways you can be involved and make a difference. This show is usually about personal growth, personal improvement, but I like to help you all as well. Help your community, make your community be stronger by making you stronger as an individual. So get involved, make a difference. Now is your time. Now is your chance. Don't leave it to somebody else. Be encouraged and never be complacent.
Away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thanks for joining us on Truth for Our Time as we give you help when the headlines hit home, and we help you live God's Word in today's world. You're joining us on the Restoring Hope half hour. I want to thank Mac for sharing his air with me. And as you know, Mac usually talks to you about personal improvement. He usually talks to those folks recovering from addiction. Well, I usually talk to you about restoring hope in America, from the civic arena, from helping you, making you stronger so that we can correct things civically in our communities, because as involved as I am in politics, I also think the help's going to come from home, from hearts and homes. Politics is downstream from the culture. So we have to be involved in both, but I like to give you hope on all of those arenas. And today joining me is Van Harden, no stranger to politics, to community involvement, to civic arena, to all things happening wherever, because he's on air, WHO, 50,000 watt radio station, clear channel station, and he just has his thumb on the pulse of everything, I think. If it's happening, Van knows about it. Up before the crack of dawn to talk about things. In fact, today you were up. Well, we all joined you.
Yeah, because of the lunar eclipse.
The blood moon.
Yeah, wasn't that pretty?
It was beautiful. And, it was not my intent. I didn't set my alarm or anything else, but I'd heard people talk about it. We were talking about the prophecy, even we stopped by a mall last night to meet my son, my granddaughter, and people were talking about it at the mall.
Yeah.
And so I just happened to be up and took some photos, and that's now my profile picture on Facebook. But it was amazing to see.
Well, how can you not think about God when you see something like that? And then, of course, I say that about a little, a leaf.
I know. But the fact that these align with the Jewish festivals, and in 2015, there it is. Thank you, Ryan. For those of you who are watching
Fabulous.
online, you can see the photo that I took this morning about 5 o'clock. The stars were so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I wish my camera, or I wish I knew better how to run my camera, so I could have gotten some of the photos and shooting stars. It was just an amazing
Everything was just
morning.
right. A lot of times they'll tell us about this for a month ahead of time, and then it's rainy or
Right,
cloudy.
or cloudy.
Something. It was
Right.
perfect today.
It was perfect. The timing was perfect for me because you're getting up anyway. It was just a great view. And like you say, how can you think or not think about God? It's one of those things I call cookies on the counter. When your mom used to leave you cookies on the counter, you knew she was thinking about you.
Yeah.
God leaves us a sunset or a sunrise or something in creation.
Kind of makes you wonder what the first inhabitants of Earth thought when they saw a lunar eclipse for the first time, or a solar eclipse. When it's getting, hey, Grog, it's getting dark. What's going on?
I know. And yet, sometimes I think, have you been to Israel?
Not yet.
We've got to get you there, Van.
I have tried 3 different times, and each time something came up that kept me from going. So I just haven't tried so hard to do it. I probably should get back on the horse and try
We
again.
need to get you there. In January, the RNC is going. There's a private investor that's funding for several members of the RNC to go because they know how important it is to have that blessing of Israel. So we'll have to see if we can even get you on a trip like that. But
we just had one of our guys broadcast for a week.
Simon,
Over in Israel. That was he's such an interesting guy. His mother, they're British. His mother requested to be buried in Jerusalem.
As a Jew,
so she
you
was.
can do that.
Yeah.
Yep, and I've got my Jewish star on right now. And CWA just attended. We were able, for Iowa, CWA to charter a jet to fly out to Washington, D.C. on Sunday. I keep saying a jet. It was a plane. We chartered a plane. We were so thankful to be able to do it, a friend and the grace of God. And so we were able to participate in Huckabee's rally to stand with Israel. Concerned Women for America and Huckabee had a rally out there. So we were thrilled to be there. But I want to get back to, for our folks who are watching, who are listening through American Family Radio, we thank you for joining us. And, of course, you can always find the archives of our show on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube, Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. For those of you who are online watching, you can see what I'm holding up. It's Van's book, Life in the Purple Wedge, Van Harden. And Van, this book is perfect for someone, whether they're a king, a prince, a president, or a pauper.
Yeah, when anybody writes a book, and I'd never done one before, but I'm sure every author thinks, man, I got to get this in the hands of the most people possible. I literally want every human being anywhere to have this and read it or pass it on or whatever. And I know that's a lofty goal, but it's so basic in such a complicated world that sometimes we think so much about so many complicated things that we don't stop to get a little more foundational. And, I don't know that I wrote anything in that book that people didn't know anyway. Most of it is just, it's scriptural. But I had never, I've taught adult Bible classes for about 35 years, and I had some time off, and I started to put some puzzle pieces together. I knew all the puzzle pieces, but I'd never quite heard them put together in this way. And it helped me, so I thought, well, maybe this will help some other people too.
First off, what I love about your book is the size.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
large
intimidating.
Print.
I love the large print. That's very helpful for someone like me.
Well, I thought, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it the way I'd like to read it.
So it's just not intimidating at all.
It's a quick read.
It's a quick read. And so Van Harden is my guest, Hardin. Ian, I just blew it. Harden.
Yeah.
And so vanharden.com.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so then you can find the Purple Wedge at that site as well. You can also find this on Amazon.com if you want to get the book. So in this little book, you're talking about the Purple Wedge, and I first thought this is going to be political. I'm so tired of red state, blue state, we're purple state, but it's not.
No, not at all. I got to thinking, I had about 2 months off of teaching, and that gave me, I always spent at least 4 or 5 hours per week preparing my Sunday school lesson. So, 5 hours a week times 2 months gave me a lot of extra time. So I got to thinking about the things that I taught in Sunday school and the things that really made people light up, and some other things that I kind of got deer in the headlights looks. And I thought, there's certain things I should have taught. I should have been able to teach those a lot better. And I didn't, and it frustrated me. And so I thought, well, I started drawing pictures of some really foundational, basic things, and I looked at them, and I'm a very visual learner. And so this, right off the bat, I think this could help people. And all I did was I came up with a red circle for the world in which we live in for your life. And this red circle on the left-hand side, there's a dot, and that's the day you were born. And on the right-hand side, there's a dot, and that's the day that you'll die. And so you're making a trip through this red circle, and it's this world. And I made it red because so many violent, turbulent things happen in this world. I mean, money problems, health problems, relationship problems, job problems, you name it. And everybody's got their own.
Right.
And it's tough. It's really hard. And so I thought, well, okay, but that's when I studied what Jesus and Paul had to say about this world. They talk about this world, and then they talk about it in very negative tones. This world with the ruler of this world and the wisdom of this world, and it was always rather negative. And so I thought, well, our faith in coming to Christ is such a positive thing. There's got to be more than this. And the very fact that they said this world would indicate to me that if there's a this world, there's got to be another world. Yep. And so I thought, well, certainly there is, and that's God's kingdom. So I thought, okay, how do I draw that? And I made it a big blue box, a big blue rectangle, and it dawned on me, some people think you have to die before you enter God's kingdom, and that's not at all true. I know people who became Christians when they were 3, and I've known them when they became Christians when they were 50. Or, you look at the thief on the cross, and he really didn't commit until maybe minutes before he died. Who knows? So anyway, when you are called to God, this big blue sheet comes over your red circle, and it starts wherever that happens in your life in the red circle. So then you have the red circle that you've gone through partially, but then all of a sudden you have this other thing, and red plus blue equals purple. So we have this really rather unusual thing when you think about it. We are living in 2 different worlds at the same time. We're living in the red world and we're living in the blue world, and that's the purple wedge. Now, one day, we don't know when, but we'll die. And we'll pass out of that red circle, and we'll be in the 100% perfect blue world of Christ's eternity forever. But anyway, like I said, I don't know that I taught anybody anything new here. It's perspective, because I've seen so many Christians that weren't happy, or they get unbelievably upset about politics or about health or all that. And when you look at this, it helps you put it into perspective. How long do we live? 100 years, maybe? And that eternity thing goes forever. But you still are in God's kingdom when you're in that purple wedge. And you got to remember that, or you got things out of whack. Because a witness of a Christian who's sad or mad or what is not very good.
Not very helpful.
Yeah.
And we do more damage as Christians than non-believers sometimes.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So, all right. So you just said a couple of things, and I've already got my list of questions too. So I want to.
Well, that's just basically
yeah.
the layout. That's the foundation of what the purple wedge is.
Well, and so you said you may not have taught anybody something new, but I'll tell you what. It's like looking at a math problem, and somehow a friend gives you a clue, and it clicks for you, and now you can do that math problem so much easier. I think that's what maybe you've done here. We tend to make it too complicated. You brought up the thief on the cross. I know churches who try and make it. They add to it. Legalism, they add to it because it just can't be that simple.
Yeah.
That thief was on the cross. He accepted Jesus Christ, and he said, "You'll be with me tonight."
Yeah, and probably an hour before that, he was cursing him. Isn't it amazing?
So it's just that simple. All he had to do was ask Jesus into his heart, and that was enough to be in heaven.
And it's amazing what you said about this may help some people. I had a friend who was in Methodist Hospital, and he was dying of cancer. Everybody knew he was dying. He knew he was dying. Nobody knew how much time he had left. But I was just writing this at the time. And I went to visit him, and we talked about silly stuff like we always did. And then he started talking about spiritual things. And he was kind of getting into this kind of thing. And so I reached into a wastebasket and got a pencil, and I drew out a picture of the red circle and the blue thing and the purple wedge. And I said, "You mean kind of like this?" And he looked at me, and he had the biggest smile I have ever seen him have, but yet tears were flowing from his eyes. And he said, "That is exactly what I needed to hear today." And 2 days later, he died. So I thought, if this will help him, maybe it'll help some other people.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry, Van. Isn't it cool when God uses you like that? And if you're out there listening, and that sounds... You're wishing. Have you ever? I've been there. Lord, why aren't you using me? Lord, what make me vital? Well, all it takes is a prayer and a little obedience.
And sometimes you're being used and you don't know it.
That's true too. Very true. Now you mentioned in here, and you mentioned it just a minute ago. Sometimes things are so bad, we wonder where God is, how God could allow that to happen, and you talk about that in your book. Take us through that.
Well, I guess one personal example was. My mother was probably the most blessed Christian I'd ever seen. I realize that I'm a little tainted in that thought, but
Grace was her
if you've
name.
ever heard Simon Estes talk about his mother, it's kind of like that.
I get it.
And she was in a nursing home, and she'd always done really well. She was 94, and for some reason she just stopped eating. And I'd try to help her eat, and she'd push my hand away, and it was almost like she was telling me, my time has come. And so anyway, I stayed with her for 5 weeks. We went through that. And I will never forget the Saturday when I sat next to her bed, and she was kind of gasping for air, and she hurt. And, it's hard to see anybody do that, let alone your own mother. And so I was second guessing God. I said, "God, what are you doing? How's this glorifying your kingdom?" So anyway, that evening I left, and the next morning at 7:00, I got a phone call, and it was from the nursing home, and my mom had just passed away. And I looked at the clock. It was Easter morning. Her name was Grace. It was 7:00, exactly sunrise, her favorite time of day. Easter, by far her favorite holiday. And I laughed, and I thought, here I thought I would be such a good God, and I thought I would know what was right. He knew exactly what he was doing all the time. Yeah. But it is hard in situations like that to think that way. But, who's smarter, God or me? Duh. So I have really tried hard to switch my life from me to he in every situation. And it's hard to do.
I'm writing that down, from me to he. You're absolutely right. And near that same part of the book, I think you probably confess what all of us need to confess. I wasn't really looking for truth. I was looking for God's confirmation of mine.
Of my own truth, yeah.
Boy, I think that's for most of us as Christians. I just have to remember sometimes to remove Tamara from the equation and ask God to help me see what he's got for me.
When I first started studying the Bible, I was very excited about it because the things I read, I thought, this is great. I want to teach this. And then I started running into a few things that either I didn't like, or I found myself saying, if I was God, I would never do it that way. And my Sunday school classes laugh at me because it takes me, they always time me to see how long it takes before I say that. But then it really got to me that, and there are a lot of things today in my job that as a Christian put me in some very uncomfortable situations. But I just had to say, am I going to draw lines through parts of the Bible? Am I going to tear pages out of part of the Bible? Or am I going to do what I say I do, and that's follow Jesus Christ?
Right.
So I've chosen to do that. And is it easy? Nope. That's why. Because we're in a red world that doesn't go with that stuff.
Yep. And I don't know how I figured it out, and it's not always easy being in politics. But I think I've seen people turn so quickly and so easily on other people, minority leaders, majority leaders, whatever their title was, that I now no longer look to men for their approval.
Yeah.
It's me and God, because they're probably not going to be with me the next WISP.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
And so in some ways it's almost easier for me in that field because I know I can't count on people anyway. So God is the one I need to count on.
I think there's probably a lot of people running for office right now that are Christians that really won't come right out and say what they really believe because they're weighing, if I say this, I won't get into office and then I'll have no influence.
Right.
But if I don't say it, maybe I'll win and beat the other person and at least be in office. So
and once you get in office, then they tend to think I'm going to lose if I say this, I'll lose. So it's always, you can always find a way. Was it Erwin Lutzer says the head will justify what the heart wants?
Yeah.
You just have to totally, I think, sell out for Jesus. And there's something to the fact, I don't if it's a scripture or what it is, but once you're willing to be made a fool for him, then he can use you.
I don't know if you ever get this, but I get people, especially in my job, which is a secular job. People come up to me and they say, "You're religious, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And, I don't like that word very well because I know their definition of it is completely different than mine.
Yeah, here's what I get. People who don't like me because I'm religious and they're political, and people who don't like me because I'm political and they're religious.
Yeah.
I'm the wrong of both. And what are you not supposed to talk about at parties? Faith and politics.
Politics, that's
what do
right.
I do? It's who I am.
Yeah, that's your thing.
So one of the other things you talked about, one of the things that lit up for me, and I had the honor of getting to hear you speak about your book, which was really helpful. And for those of you who are listening online, Van will be at, is it Machine Shed this Saturday?
Yeah, I'm doing a book signing Saturday at the Iowa Machine Shed restaurant, 10 to 1. And then I've been asked to fill the pulpit at First Open Bible Church in Hickman and Merle Hay. This thing has really opened up stuff I never dreamed that I would be involved with.
So on October 12th, you'll be at Open Bible.
Right, this Sunday.
What time is church?
10.
10 a.m.
Yep.
All right, so one of the things that clicked for me, I have always heard the expression, to those whose much is given, much is required. And I always thought that was for the wealthy, or that was for the resources, or somehow you had a material good or something you had to give. When I heard you say this and you talked about the kid who was saved at 3, we all know somebody who got saved later in life, and man, they hooked in and they knew more than the person sitting in the pew for years.
Yeah.
And when you said this, I thought, I have been saved. I got saved as a young kid. I can't give you a date. My parents were raised in the church. I was raised in the church. I'm going to be held responsible for what I've known.
Yeah.
And boy, it put that fire underneath me of what am I going to have?
And isn't it interesting how our red world values the CEOs and the power people and all of that. And you think of people who are in a nursing home who maybe can't even move in their bed. And what's the number one thing God wants from us? Love God with all your heart and all your might and all your soul and all your strength.
Yep.
And I know people that fit that description in the nursing home that are doing that.
Yep.
And I know CEOs that aren't.
Right.
So who's more valuable?
One of the TV or the radio speakers I like to hear, and I can't think who it was, said he was looking for his church board. And things weren't going well. He knew he needed to get a new church board, and they were setting up somehow a new church board. And he was looking for men who were CEOs, men who were responsible, business owners, successful. And he said God just thumped him on the head and said, find people who are broken.
Yeah, look at the disciples.
Find people who are broken.
Yeah.
And recently we got to go to Angola prison with Governor Jindal. And I don't know if you've heard about what's happening down there. It is a revival that's going on.
Wow.
I talked to one of the men there who is there for life, no chance of getting out. Charles Manson has a chance every 7 years. These people, even second-degree murder and some non-violent but repeat offenders, will never get out. And I said to him, I know people with mansions, cars, they travel, and they're miserable. They're on antidepressants. You are happy and joyful, and you're here for the rest of your life. Why? And much like we're talking about, he said, those people are looking at temporal. I'm looking at eternal. And he quoted Philippians, think on these things.
Yeah.
Whatsoever's pure, whatsoever's lovely. So, Van, we know people that are upset. We know Christians that grumble and gripe and do more damage than good. It's a mindset.
Yeah. Well, it's fairly natural. It's not, I have a hard time criticizing it because I find myself falling into it. This world pounds on you. And that was part of the message of this book. This world is going to pound on you, but you're in another world now. You're not in the red world. You're in the purple wedge. And if you understand what a blessing that is, it changes everything.
Yep. And you said something about you thought you knew better than God. And I laugh when I'm on the road and I tell my family they're so lucky I'm not God.
Yeah.
I'd be knocking these cars off. And
Yep. That's what I tell the Sunday school people too.
Okay. So you talk about something else that's difficult for a lot of people. You are brave enough on page 73. He is the only way to enter into heaven.
Yeah.
This is a struggle for those even in the faith arena right now.
Yeah, it is, because in the red world, that's not popular. And I think that the largest religion of the world is not Hindu, not Christian, not any of these. The largest religion in the world is a religion called the way I want things to be. And, as a Christian, sometimes it may be difficult for you, may not be difficult for you to witness about Christ and about He is the one way, as the Bible clearly tells us many times. But you get on Larry King's show, and he gets Billy Graham on there. So am I going to hell because I'm not a follower of Jesus? And they pound you with that. They're more concerned about the red information than they are the blue eternity.
Yep. And often we've seen it. Men of God, men with large, powerful followings, have cowered on that Larry King show and refused to come out and say the truth. And we get it too as far as the homosexual movement. Are you saying blah, 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 somebody won't go to heaven? And the Bible's written. It's timeless. Yeah. The truth is timeless. And I can't condone what God has condemned.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to go to hell, whether it's you name the sin. You and I got plenty of them ourselves. But it's funny you said that, because I went out to lunch with a pastor the other day who had read the book.
Can I hold you just a minute?
Sure.
Because we've got to go for our friends who are on American Family Radio.
Great.
And if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, you can join us. The archive will be on Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. You can find Van Harden, HARDEN.com, vanharden.com. Thanks for listening, but we want to encourage you, be encouraged and never be complacent. All right, and for those of you who are staying tuned, thank you so much for staying tuned with us on webcast1live.com. And of course, those archives are always available for you, and you can find me at Truth for Our Time on Facebook page, or Tamara Scott on Facebook page, or you can email us at truthforourtime.com. Van, I hated to interrupt you right there.
Right.
You know what it is to have a hard break, and I just caught my
time.
time. So sorry about that. But
well, this pastor and I went out to lunch, and I know him very well. He's a great pastor, and he said, you said things in this book that I'm not sure I could say and get away with.
A pastor.
Yeah. And I said, well, maybe there are things that you can say in the pulpit that I couldn't get away with. I don't know. But I guess it's just because I've tried to make this so simple. And Faith Life is not always simple. But a lot of that is because of all these darts you get from the red world, and at least you can kind of put that into place and see how that works.
Yep. So thank you so much for taking this, because this was obedience, Van. I mean, I don't know if you doubted yourself, if you were concerned about what people might think, if this would interfere with the job that you have, because you have, just like a politician, I'm sure you have people who might come after you when you insert your faith.
Well, after I wrote it, I got it, and first of all, I never dreamed I'd ever write a book, but I put my hand on it, and I said a prayer, and I said, "Dear God, if the only people in the world that read this are my wife and my kids, I'm fine with that. But if there's something else you can do with it, take it away." And so many things have happened since then. It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much for being obedient. Life in the Purple Wedge. Life in the Purple Wedge. Van Harden is the author, vanharden.com. And you can hear Van any weekday on WHO Radio 1040 AM. Thanks for joining me.
But you got to get up pretty early in the morning.
Early. What time do you go to bed?
I try for 8, but my alarm goes off at 3:20. So, and people say, "Oh, I bet you really get used to that doing it." And I say, "No, it's still the middle of the night."
Yeah, I would guess so. And so I'm going to ask you one more quick question. One of the things that's most difficult for us as Christians is getting in that Bible time, the prayer time. And so you have to get up I was going to say ungodly early, but that doesn't really fit. How do you get that in?
Well, to tell you the truth, that's how I started this whole thing, because I prayed a long, long time ago, "God, I want to know more about you, and I wanted to know about the Bible." And the very next day, my hometown church called and said, "We'd like you to be our new adult Bible teacher." And I would have laughed if that had come 24 hours earlier, but I thought, if I'm going to ask, I better listen. You never know how the answer is going to come. So because of that, I have been forced to study for 4 hours every week. And frequently it's on the weekend, but it's one of those things like I'm a little kid. You don't want to get in the bathtub, but when you get in, you don't want to get out.
Yeah, I got it. I can't think of a better way to say it. That's it right there. I am Tamara Scott. My guest has been Van Harden. Thank you for joining us today. And again, you can make a difference. Be out there, be encouraged, and never be complacent.